Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that, well, it affects everyone, doesn't it? Because life can be, frankly, pretty messy sometimes.
Mm.
We're talking about navigating all the difficult, sometimes downright frustrating parts of just everyday life, friends, work, money, just kind of getting by.
And the material we're diving into today, it offers a refreshingly practical take. It's a book, and it doesn't really shy away from the hard stuff. Lots of humor, actually, and some really memorable analogies.
Yeah.
It's less, academic theory and more like, okay, here's a different way to think about this. Maybe something you can actually do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is really to unpack that core wisdom, find those surprising little insights, and the advice that seems simple but is actually quite hard to put into practice.
Yeah.
It's about finding, practical paths through the stuff that feels heavy, the real-life hard things.
And the source really grounds it all by starting with our inner world, how we deal with our emotions, our mindset. That's kind of the foundation for everything else.
Okay, so the first analogy it uses for emotions is, well, it's quite striking. It talks about treating them like an overflowing trash bag.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
You ignore it, you keep stuffing things down, and then bam, disaster.
Yeah.
Trash and bin juice everywhere, as it says. It's a pretty vivid picture of what happens when we don't deal with our feelings.
It really is. A bit gross, but effective. But then right away, the source offers this completely different way to frame it, almost jarringly different.
Okay.
Instead of garbage, it asks you to imagine your emotions as lovely, fluffy animals coming to visit.
Lovely, fluffy animals, even the difficult ones, the ones that feel more like a thundercloud.
Well, yeah, that's the point, I think. All emotions are visitors. And, okay, yes, the difficult ones like, say, sadness.
Yeah,
They're never going to be easy guests, are they?
right.
The source even jokes it's probably easier than having a real llama on your sofa. But the core idea is you actually sit with them. You acknowledge they're there instead of pretending they aren't or trying to, immediately push them out the door.
Sitting with the big fluffy llama of sadness?
Uh-huh.
That's such a specific image. It feels, I don't know, almost actionable in how weird it is. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, that leads directly into one of the really practical tips. It suggests creating little rituals or traditions, not just for the happy feelings, but specifically for when those tricky emotional animals come calling.
Okay.
So if sadness is that big, fluffy llama, maybe your ritual is something specific, like putting on lovely, fresh PJs plus watch sitcoms. Having that sort of pre-planned response, even if it sounds a bit silly, it gives you a small sense of control when the feeling shows up.
Huh. That's such a different way to think about coping, isn't it? Okay, so moving from those emotional visitors,
Yeah.
what about our mindset? The source is quick to say that the difference between a good day and a bad day is a lot more complex than a sanctimonious motivational quote.
Absolutely. It keeps the whole mindset thing grounded in reality. And it connects this to some really crucial reminders about mental health. Now, it's very clear this isn't professional medical advice, but it offers some comfort.
Right.
It stresses that you are most certainly not alone. And it mentions that common statistic, 1 in 4 people experiencing mental health challenges at some point.
And importantly, that these challenges aren't some kind of moral failing. It's not about not being grateful enough or something you should feel guilty over.
Exactly. Your mental health is framed as being just as vital as your physical health, something you are absolutely entitled to protect however you need to. And it ties back strongly to that binge juice idea here, right? You can't just keep feelings bottled up forever. The source really urges you find someone to talk to, whether that's a friend, family, or maybe a professional.
So let the fluffy animals visit. Don't leave them festering in the bin bag. Got it. Okay, speaking of balancing the tough stuff with finding some good, the source has this really memorable take on gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
It says, take a minute to be grateful for everything that isn't completely shit right now.
It's blunt, isn't it? But effective.
Yeah.
It kind of cuts through that pressure to feel like you have to be deliriously happy all the time. It just acknowledges that, yeah, bullshit happens. Sometimes big stuff, sometimes just annoying little things.
Right.
You don't have to pretend everything is sunshine, but you can usually find something, even if it's tiny, that isn't actively terrible.
That kind of grounded gratitude feels way more achievable when things are genuinely difficult.
Yeah.
Something else the source flags as a massive drain on happiness is comparison.
Oh, definitely. It calls it normal, like deeply ingrained in us, but also the source of utter misery.
So what's the advice? Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Seems impossible.
Well, no, not exactly stop it, because it is almost automatic. The key advice is just to notice it. Become aware when you're doing it. Accept that, okay, this is a normal human thing to do, and then consciously shift your focus back to what works for you, your life, and your body.
Just noticing, without beating yourself up for comparing in the first place. That simple awareness, yeah, that feels powerful. Okay, let's dig into beliefs now, starting with self-belief. The source uses this wonderfully absurd comparison.
The Victorian doctors.
Yes, if Victorian doctors could believe that some people had ghosts in their blood or whatever, then surely you can muster up a little bit of belief in yourself.
It sets the bar hilariously low, which kind of makes it easier to approach. And to help build that self-belief, it suggests a really concrete exercise, making a my achievements list.
Okay, what kind of achievements? Like big life goals?
Not necessarily. It's specifically for noting things you genuinely thought you couldn't do right up until the moment you actually did them.
Ah, okay. Like finally figuring out how to assemble that flat pack furniture, or getting through a really awkward family dinner, or maybe just surviving a super stressful week at work. Things that felt impossible before you did them.
Exactly those kinds of things. And this ties into the idea of limiting beliefs. You know, those unhelpful truths we carry around about ourselves or the world. The source describes them as being like a cocoon that holds us back.
Right. Like thinking, I'm just not good at public speaking, or I'm terrible with money. Those kinds of fixed ideas.
Precisely. And the source gives a specific structure to challenge these, to help you kind of break out of that cocoon. It's the I think, but I will exercise.
Okay, walk us through that.
Right. So first, you state the limiting belief clearly. I think I can't speak up in important meetings. Then comes the but part, which is crucial. You find actual evidence, real examples that contradict the belief. But I did share that one idea last month and people seem to like it. Or, but I practiced what I wanted to say last time and it felt a bit easier.
Finding the counter evidence. Okay.
Then finally, the I will. This is where you make a small, concrete action plan based on that evidence. I will aim to contribute just 1 point in the next team meeting.
So it takes this big, vague, negative feeling and turns it into a specific challenge with actual evidence and a next step. The source does point out, though, that challenging limiting beliefs is one of those very hard things. Why is this specifically so tough?
Well, I think it's because these limiting beliefs often get tangled up with our sense of identity, right? They feel like fundamental facts about who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So finding evidence against them, doing that but step, it means questioning that core story we tell ourselves. It takes real persistence, and courage to keep applying the but and the I will when that I think feeling is just so ingrained and feels so true.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're rewriting a part of your own internal script. Now, beyond self-belief, the source briefly touches on other kinds of beliefs, like religious ones, spiritual ideas, the everything happens for a reason kind of thinking. It acknowledges these can bring comfort.
Right, but then it immediately pivots to another hard thing related to beliefs.
Yes. Accepting that other people hold completely opposite beliefs to yours.
With the exact same level of conviction that you hold yours.
This is where the mattress analogy comes in. Right?
It's brilliant, isn't it? You get a new mattress, you absolutely love it, you're convinced it is the best, the absolutely 100% correct mattress.
And you just know everyone else must be sleeping terribly on their clearly inferior mattresses. You want to tell them.
Exactly. But other people have their own mattresses. Maybe they love theirs, maybe they hate theirs, but just aren't interested in changing right now. The really hard part isn't being convinced about your own mattress. It's accepting that other people feel that same deep down certainty about their mattress, even if it seems totally wrong to you.
So the advice is, what? Just let them sleep badly.
Pretty much. Let them sleep on their potentially inferior mattresses. You don't have to launch a campaign to convert everyone to your brand of bedding. Just accept their right to their own sleep setup.
That's such a great visual for respecting different viewpoints without feeling like you have to argue or convert them. It feels like a really natural segue into talking about relationships and boundaries.
Absolutely. And the source acknowledges straight up that family relationships, in particular, are super complex. You often find yourself putting up with behaviors or situations from family that you'd never accept from anyone else.
Yeah.
It's all held together by these deep bonds, shared history, and it's a place where boundaries can get really, really blurry.
And the source just lays it out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A real hard truth. You can't keep everyone happy all of the time.
But you can make yourself utterly miserable trying, which leads right into the case for boundaries. The source calls them Bloody brilliant, actually, and basically necessary unless you fancy living completely alone in a cave or a little boat or on the moon.
Okay, so for the rest of us living on Earth with, other humans, boundaries are essential. The source explains they're not about building walls to keep people out.
Right, it's more about preventing unwanted things from coming in. They give you a sense of control, and that actually boosts your confidence over time.
And it gives concrete examples, right? Like telling your sister her comments about your appearance aren't welcome.
Yeah, or letting your partner know you need some alone time after work, or even just setting expectations with that neighbor who always seems to pop around unannounced. These seem like small things, but they can be incredibly hard to actually say out loud respectfully.
True. And the source does acknowledge that relationships need give and take, flexibility,
Hmm.
but it warns you not to bend so much that you snap.
Yeah, that's a key distinction, and it makes the point that choosing to bend a boundary once for a specific reason, maybe for the greater good of the relationship in that moment, doesn't automatically mean that boundary is gone forever. It's about making a conscious choice, not just automatically giving in every time.
Okay, but what about dealing with people who seem to actively make things difficult? The source calls them toxic people, the ones always throwing so many spanners into the works.
Yeah, it tackles that head on. It suggests a kind of structured approach to uh, detoxifying your life from those influences. Step one is basically know the signs. Understand what toxic behavior actually looks like. Step two, check your boundaries. Are you maybe inadvertently making it easier for them to behave that way? Step three is about creating a drama-free zone around yourself, consciously deciding not to get sucked into their chaos.
Right, don't engage with the drama.
And finally, focus on the good shit, meaning put your energy into nurturing the positive, healthy relationships you do have.
There's another hard truth in there, though, about toxic people. The source really emphasizes that people don't change unless they want to.
Exactly. You can't fix them, no matter how much you might want to or how hard you try.
So what are the options?
Well, the source presents cutting someone out completely as an instant fix. It acknowledges that's really hard, of course, but it also says that even making smaller changes, like reducing contact or enforcing boundaries more strictly, takes consistent, long-term effort.
It's not a quick fix unless you go for the drastic option.
Right. But the underlying message is meant to be empowering. I deserve to be free of toxic influences. It's about taking small, deliberate actions again and again. That's how you move forward.
And while protecting yourself and your existing relationships is key, the source also briefly mentions making new connections too, right?
Yeah, just briefly. It suggests things like being officially open to meeting people, maybe trying to build on existing acquaintances, asking friends for introductions, connecting over shared interests.
With the funny caveat that the shared interest shouldn't be being difficult.
Exactly. Building that positive support network is framed as really important for navigating all this other hard stuff.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about finding our way in the world, things like career, purpose, money. That feeling of being stuck, like you're at a dead end, or just totally clueless about what direction to go in.
Yeah.
That's pretty universal, I think.
Oh, definitely. And the source offers a series of questions to help you kind of poke at that feeling of being stuck, explore it a bit.
Like what?
Well, questions like, do you actually need to spend more time exactly where you are right now? Is this meant to be a pause, a time for reflection?
Or maybe, is there something from your past that's kind of calling you back? Like, is there some unfinished business or a passion you dropped that needs revisiting?
Right. And also, is there somewhere else you always felt you should be? Thinking about that might lead you to accept, okay, that's not going to happen. Or it might spark a new plan to actually go for it.
Okay.
Crucially, it also asks, what feels like happiness for you right now? Not some distant future, but now. And how can you move towards that?
Focusing on the present happiness, yeah, that feels more manageable. And the last question.
Is there a specific obstacle blocking you? Because if there is, then maybe tackling that obstacle is your current direction. That's the work right now.
Those are really good prompts for self-reflection. The source then uses this really interesting analogy for when things end in our lives, not just relationships, but like constants. A long-term job, maybe a hobby you've done for years, even says a favorite pair of jeans you've worn forever. It frames these endings as a kind of divorce.
Right, but it reframes that idea of divorce, not just as a sad thing, a failure, something where people say, oh, I'm so sorry.
But as potentially a huge positive and opportunity to move on.
Exactly. It absolutely acknowledges the sadness, the uncertainty that comes when you leave something familiar behind, even if it wasn't perfect. But it really emphasizes the potential for a new start.
And it encourages you to apply this to your own life, right? Ask yourself, are you staying married to a job or a situation just because it feels easier, even if you suspect you'd be happier apart?
Yeah, or are you just kind of going through the motions, celebrating anniversaries of sticking with something when really you know it's finished? Is the amount of time you've already invested holding you back from a potentially much better fresh start?
It really puts the agency back with you. Only you can decide, and you are in the driving seat. But importantly, the source also says don't add pressure to what can be a really tough personal decision.
And that pressure can feel particularly intense around work, can't it? The source talks about that whole work-life balance thing, how the lines are getting blurrier. It stresses that since work takes up such a huge chunk of our lives, it's actually pretty important to try and like it, if at all possible.
Okay, but what if you really, truly hate your job?
Well, the source lays out a clear, practical, staged plan for that scenario. First step, work out why you hate it. Is it the actual place, the environment? Is it your boss? Or is it the fundamental tasks of the job itself?
Figure out the root cause. Then what?
Then you make a plan accordingly. So if it's the workplace, your plan involves finding a new employer. If it's the job itself, it uses the example of being a builder but dreaming of being a dentist. Then the plan obviously involves retraining, which takes time.
Okay, so you make a plan, potentially a long-term one.
And you spread that plan out over however long you need to. No need to do it all at once. But, and this is highlighted as absolutely critical, you must take the first tiny step.
Just one small thing. Why is that so important?
Because that tiny step, whatever it is, maybe signing up for online job alerts, researching a course, tidying up your CV, that first action puts the plan officially in motion. It breaks the inertia, the feeling of being stuck. It makes it real.
It's about momentum. Finding that balance that works for you. Maybe you need the structure of an office. Maybe you thrive working from home. Predictable hours or more, ebb and flow. The goal, it says, is to build a work life that doesn't just feel like an endless grind.
Which kind of brings us to the idea of success itself. The source uses that classic iceberg metaphor, what looks like smooth, effortless success floating on the surface.
Is almost always built on this massive amount of unseen hard work, struggle, and failure hidden below the waterline.
Exactly. And it's that shiny tip of the iceberg that we see in others that fuels so much comparison, right?
Yeah.
You look at someone who seems to have just landed on their feet and immediately feel inadequate. But the source is really firm on this. Success is different for everyone. Your version of success might be passing an exam, getting that promotion, sure. But it might also be finally saving up enough for that comfy sofa you wanted or hitting a personal best at the gym. You get to set your own vision of what success looks like for you.
So you shouldn't be measuring your progress towards your goal, like saving for the sofa against someone else's totally different achievement, like, I don't know, buying 50,000 Bitcoins or whatever.
It sounds obvious when you say it like that, but it's so easy to fall into that trap. The advice is clear. Keep your eyes on your own prize. Consciously recognize your hard work, the effort you're putting in, and make a point of celebrating your successes, however small they might seem to others.
It even suggests visualizing a My Achievements shelf, right, where you mentally place these personal wins.
Yeah, I like that image too. It makes it feel more tangible. Okay, let's talk about money. Always a fun topic. It's a source of huge anxiety for so many people. The source acknowledges how scary it can be, especially if you feel like you're at rock bottom.
So what's the strategy? Just hope for the best?
Actually, no. The strategy it offers is powerful precisely because it tackles the fear directly. It says, plan for the worst-case scenario.
Really? Plan for the absolute worst. That sounds terrifying.
Well, the thinking is, if you actually sit down and figure out a concrete plan for what you would do if the absolute worst thing happened financially, then dealing with anything less than that absolute worst becomes significantly easier, less overwhelming. You've already faced the biggest fear on paper.
Huh. Okay, I can see the logic there. Facing the fear to reduce its power.
And alongside that, there's this really hopeful, almost immediate message. You can make a fresh start at any time, even at 4 p.m. on a Thursday. That moment, right now, can be the official first day of the rest of your life.
I like that. No need to wait for Monday or the new year.
Exactly. And it suggests why not use that moment to give yourself a lovely present. And that present isn't buying something fancy, it's taking practical financial action. The source lists a whole load of things. Actually making a budget, starting a savings plan, even a tiny one, creating a debt repayment strategy, looking for ways to cut bills, even if it's the famous not buying avocados, selling stuff you don't need, maybe even carefully looking into things like cryptocurrency if that's appropriate for you.
It frames doing these practical, maybe boring things now as a kind
Yeah.
of message from future you.
Yeah, like deal with this stuff now so that the future version of you can actually chill out for like 2 seconds instead of inheriting the same old money worries. It's a pretty good motivator.
Definitely a good way to frame it. The source also briefly touches on that common challenge of living with other people, sharing space. It acknowledges it just requires compromise. You have to chuck all your individual ideals in a cauldron and stir them up to find a shared recipe that everyone can live with.
Like agreeing on who cleans the bathroom when, setting up chore rotas to avoid ending up with a petri dish of bacteria and resentment.
Yeah, avoid the petri dish.
And just accepting that, some nights you might all agree on ordering pizza, other nights someone might want to cook something fancier. There has to be give and take. The general perspective it offers is to try and ground yourself in gratitude for what is working, like, hey, you have a roof over your head, while also actively making plans to fix the things that aren't working, like, say, the actual leaky roof.
Balance appreciation with action. Okay, that brings us towards the final section from the source, the crucial importance of fun and rest. It starts by asking, why is finding time for actual fun often so hard?
Yeah, it points out how easily fun gets sucked up by other responsibilities. And also that weird, insidious guilt many of us feel about taking time for simple pleasures, like having a long bath or just zoning out in front of the TV.
Right, like it's unproductive or indulgent.
Exactly. But the source delivers a really clear, necessary countermessage. You're absolutely worthy and deserving of some pleasure. Full stop.
That feels important here.
And tied directly into this is the need for learning to rest, especially when you feel totally exhausted. The source really pushes back against that hustle culture idea that rest is just laziness. It argues that genuine rest is productive, but the good kind, the kind that restores you, not the kind that's just about optimizing every single minute for external results.
That distinction feels vital. And I really like this section titled, Hobbies Don't Have to Be Side Hustles.
Oh yeah, that's so relevant right now, isn't it? Everyone feels pressure to monetize everything.
Totally.
The source uses examples like cross-stitch or doing yoga or gluing crystals onto old wine glasses, whatever it is. You should feel completely free to just enjoy these things purely for the pleasure they bring. The warning is pretty clear. Be careful you don't accidentally turn your fun escape into a hugely stressful obligation by trying to build a business around it. Even though, yes, some successful businesses do start that way.
It's basically permission to just enjoy things for their own sake. And that connects nicely to another really liberating idea it presents. Being a bit rubbish can be liberating.
Yes. This is great. It's about finding joy in doing something, even if you know you're not particularly good at it. It's about not giving a single damn about how well you perform or what anyone else thinks.
Like the examples it uses of running or pole vaulting. If you only ever focus on measuring your progress, timing yourself competing, you can completely suck the fun right out of it.
Right. So instead, the source suggests measuring enjoyment. If you go for a run, maybe count how many happy dogs you see or notice how good the fresh air feels, rather than just focusing on your pace or distance. It's about choosing metrics that actually support the fun part, not just the outcome.
So the final message on this seems really simple, but maybe deceptively so. Don't overcomplicate fun. Just think of something you genuinely find enjoyable and then actually make some space to go and do it.
Yeah, and carving out that time, allowing yourself that rest and that pleasure, that can actually be one of the hard things to do in a busy, demanding life. It often feels like the easiest thing to sacrifice.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? From navigating our internal world, those emotions, the limiting beliefs.
To setting those crucial boundaries in relationships, dealing with tricky family stuff, even toxic people.
And thinking our path with work, managing money anxieties, finding a personal definition of success.
And finally, landing on the non-negotiable importance of just having some fun and actually allowing ourselves to rest properly.
This source really lays out that these are just the universal challenges, the real messy stuff of everyday life. But, by combining these practical strategies with a dose of humor and those really relatable perspectives, it does offer ways to approach these hard things that feel, I don't know, a bit less daunting,
Yeah.
more manageable maybe.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully you listening have maybe picked out an insight or two, or perhaps a specific analogy really resonated with you, something you might try out. What sort of stands out to you right now, thinking back over everything?
For me, I think, maybe it's that core thread about facing the difficulty,
Yeah.
whether it's an emotion or a task. It often starts with just a small shift in how you look at it,
Right, that perspective shift.
and then taking just one tiny deliberate action. Not solving everything at once, but just starting.
Yeah, that seems key. So maybe a final thought for you listening. Can you identify maybe one fluffy animal emotion you could try to sit with just a little differently today? Or perhaps one small, imperfect step you could take towards something you find genuinely fun, or something important you've been putting off?
Just take one idea from this deep dive, maybe the one that felt strangest or most intriguing, and just see where it leads you.